So we're going to get things started today. 3 goals today. One is actually 2 goals. One is to cover our new material as we need to, and then review for the test that you'll be having. No class on Thursday. It'll be an online test that you'll have time to work on, and then we'll start our next unit on memory next week. So the first situation I want to share with you is actually just came up with it spontaneously as we were chatting about things. I wanted to chat with you guys and talk about the difference, if you want to take a few notes. I think I have it up on the screen over there. The difference between cognitive neuroscience. We've talked a lot about the difference between cognitive neuroscience and what? Cognition. But the difference between cognitive neuroscience and cognitive neuropsychology. Oh. I can do it. Cognitive neuroscience and cognitive neuropsychology. And the story I want to share with you is one that spontaneously was brought up just a little bit by Lily at the start of class here when you were talking a little bit about dreaming here. And it's a story, it's my story, so if you want to share, write down a detail or two. It was after my traumatic brain injury, when I had my accident. It was very interesting for me that I would have dreams. And actually, they would bring me out of my coma when I had this traumatic brain injury from my bike accident. And when somebody's in an induced coma, you bring them out for a while to make sure they're okay. And what I would basically be doing is, one day apparently, and I don't remember it very well, but vaguely I do, apparently there was a Broadway show coming to Roanoke, and I was like, I'm taking people over for auditions. Who's going for auditions? And are we doing this, that, and the other thing? And my wife came in the room and said to the staff and the nurses, even though he sounds like he's making perfect sense, you know he doesn't know what he's talking about right now. My mind was not separating things out very well. And actually, it was very interesting. A week or two later, I remember that as I was in rehab at that point, but still in the hospital, which I was for a month, I went to bed one night. I remember very strongly going to bed, and I used to do a lot of talks nationally on Alzheimer's disease, pharmacology, neuroscience, and Alzheimer's disease. And I had this, I remember going to sleep, but then all of a sudden I was being whisked away, and I was attending an Alzheimer's talk. I think it was at Virginia Tech or something, but I got really tired during the talk, and they had to attend to me medically and kind of give me some medication and so forth. And then this was what was going on in my mind. And then I woke up the next morning, and I was thinking, wait a second, what? That never really happened. I was just in a dream state. There's a huge difference between dreaming and reality. When you're coming out of a traumatic brain injury, are you able to really figure that out very easily, or is it probably pretty difficult? It was probably pretty difficult, and it was, but finally my brain was kind of coming back online. Would I be working at that point in time in the hospital with a cognitive neuroscientist or with a cognitive neuropsychologist on these and other kind of related what's going on in reality and what are your tasks? Which would that be? Would that be a cognitive neuroscientist, or would that be a cognitive neuropsychologist? What do you guys think? Kate, any opinion about that?
I would say probably cognitive neuropsychologist.
Why would you guys say that? What would be the reason you would say that?
Because you're not doing any kind of like brain imaging or anything.
Yeah, I'm not doing any brain imaging. Bella, would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, and also it's not necessarily a biological process because they're dreams.
They're dreams, so there is something going on obviously in the brain, but a cognitive neuropsychologist many times works in clinical settings. Their job is to help people. It's a very applied field in cognitive neuropsychology. It's a very applied field. In many situations, you're trying to help people. You work in hospitals when people have had traumatic brain injuries. I was just been so blessed that I've recovered all my cognitive function without any operations or procedures going on in my brain at that time. But the idea is, in cognitive neuropsychology, many times you're more clinically oriented. This class is cognitive neuroscience. And the other thing I wanted to share with you is, when I went to graduate school, my training was actually in neuroscience. And the hope in neuroscience was a very reductionistic idea. Do you guys remember Taliban? Do you remember what the idea of reductionism was all about? Type reductionism?
It's how your bodily functions and your psychological functions work together.
And you could basically take any mental state and do what with it? Madison, what could you do with any mental state that you're going through, a cognitive state?
You can analyze how the functions in your brain.
Yeah, how the functions in your brain actually work. And I really like that idea, because the idea of manipulating brain things to maybe fix cognitive things was part of it. But now I've switched into the field of cognitive psychology, and as I look at things more, I think if we're really in a cognitive neuropsychology realm, helping people is what it's all about. And although medications can do some of the helping here, ultimately when it's ADHD or some of these other cognitive neuroscience, language, memory disorders, many times I believe that it's really the cognitive realm that is really the intervention realm in the applied field that can really help people out. So what you should know is the difference between cognitive neuropsychology and cognitive neuroscience. Cognitive neuroscience is a very basic field, just wanting to do what, as you said before, Kate? In cognitive neuroscience, what do we try to do?
Connect the cognitive functions with the brain activity.
Yeah, with the brain activity, versus in the field of cognitive neuropsychology, many times, Desha, what do we try to do? Cognitive neuropsychology, what do we try to do with people? Speak up a little bit.
You are trying to relate their brain processes to action.
To actions, but in many situations you're trying to help these people. You want them to recover function. So if it's a recovery of function, that would be cognitive neuropsychology, which is what a lot of people are really interested in, just studying what's going on in the brain and why. So that's why many times it's like, okay, here it is in the brain. It's not, I know it and we talk about it, and today we'll talk about it as well. So with that being said, I just wanted you to understand the difference between those two fields. Is that clear for people? Okay, so next, and I'm going to stop the recording here in just a minute or so, but for the people on the recording and the people in the class, you'll need to bring up the article called The Busy Social Brain. And what I would like people to do is read page 1 of this report. And then, in the class, what we'll move on to, the people in the online version of the class, we're going to start going into stimuli and kind of design and procedures and results. So in the online class, if you want to kind of read through that, I'm going to cut the recording here. And here in class, we'll do the same thing, and then we'll open it back up for a discussion.